And welcome back to another episode of Loss of Down, the newest member of a Bruiser Nation podcast network, the division of Snapmere Productions. Another Stephen Wally episode. Shout out, happy belated birthday to David Clavin, the man himself. That's why he's not here. But Wally, how the hell was your weekend?
My weekend was great. I have to second your happy birthday. He's officially old like we are, part of the 30-year-old club. So welcome to hell. It's all. I mean, I really haven't noticed a negative. It's just you feel old when you say you're 30 now.
Yeah.
It's more of a
he's
mental
just getting
thing.
30? See, I'm
Yeah.
31 in January, so I've been having this struggle.
Yeah, he's a baby compared to us. So at least 6 months behind me and about a year behind you, a little more. But well, we'll be excited to have him back next week. He will be back. And I'm doing really well, Steven. So first of all, Denny Hamlin won Bristol last night. I was on top of the world. Redneck has to come out a little bit this time of year. And then March Madness comes out. So I just did my first bracket last night. I'd love to hear your Final Four and your winner, and I'll give you mine too as soon as you do that.
Yeah, so I haven't even sniffed a bracket yet. I've
Really?
been so bad at college basketball this year. It just has barely been on my radar. Like I fell off horribly with Syracuse this year. I mean, maybe collectively like 2 games I watched with Syracuse where this was an every Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is, anytime they're on, I would sit there and watch and torture myself for hours. This year without Boeheim, I guess there's something internally that just didn't direct me towards the TV when they were playing. So I haven't really looked into the March Madness bracket. But if I am picking somebody, it's got to be that NC State Wolfpack, baby.
Don't they have? Maybe I'm thinking of Nebraska. I know Fonz was tweeting about it earlier. There's this like sensational kid that nobody ever knew about. He's just taking the world by storm, and they're an 8 seed. And I think myself and everybody included will have them beating A&M, and I'm pretty sure I'll have them beating Houston. But I'm kind of like you. Basketball, when Ohio State isn't as good, is harder for me to follow. So I'm gonna have an awful bracket this year, but I just do it on my like first instinct anyways. You know what I mean? Like I don't think about it. It's Florida versus Boise State, Colorado. All right, well, I guess I'm going Boise State, Colorado. I don't know anything about these teams.
I just like the upsets. I'm gonna have like 2 12s, a 13, and a 15 seed in my Final Four probably because I just love the upsets. But I mean, we talked about it last week. That 11-6, 12-5, 13-4 matchup feels like 50-50 across the board. So I always pick those. And you know what? I don't even care. I'm just going to be gambling my heart out with it.
Oh, it's going to be an ugly week. Buckle up, everybody. The next 5-6 days, you might just not hear from us.
Remember, we're a football podcast, so if we give any tips or tricks, that's on you more so than it is during football season.
Absolutely. My Final Four is actually a joke, like truly a joke. I have Tennessee winning it all. Don't know why, but I've always loved that Tennessee
Go Vols, baby.
orange.
Rocky
Go
Top.
Vols. Rocky Top is right. I have Illinois facing North Carolina. North Carolina coming through. And then it's kind of like you and what you said about Syracuse. I should have like a weird thing with Duke because Coach K's gone and it's like they're not the same team. But I can't help it. I always pick them this time of year. So I have Tennessee beating Duke and then Tennessee beating UNC to win it all. None of that will happen.
Duke is choking. UNC's choking. That's just how it goes. Like I said, if any school out of that little triangle area in North Carolina's coming out, it's going to be them Wolfpack, baby.
Don't they have like a hand thing too for the Wolfpack? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Go Pack, go.
Go Wolfpack, baby. You pray to Jesus. Jesus prays to Philip Rivers. Go Pack.
So how are you,
pick
buddy?
that ball up. You pick that ball up. Don't worry. Russell Wilson picks it up and takes it for 6. Go Wolfpack.
That era of NC State quarterback, because they even had Glennon, right? The long neck guy that was about.
Yep.
I don't even know how to stretch my neck. I'm trying. But they had NFL quarterback after NFL quarterback. Great call. Yeah, they kind of really just funneled them out there for about a decade.
And I think that they have somebody there right now that's been pretty high. I don't think it was this draft. I think it's supposed to be for next year's draft. So and then you sprinkle Mario Williams in there. What's up?
Yeah, go Pack, go. I like the hand thing, so officially a member. Favorite team in North Carolina.
Let's get into some NFL news. It's post-free agency here, so now we got some trades, maybe a couple stragglers finally finding their way home here. To start it off, Justin Fields has finally been traded and now finds himself as a Pittsburgh Steeler, just a few days removed from Russell Wilson signing here on the veteran minimum. But now we got Justin Fields going over to Pittsburgh for just a 6th-round pick. Very interesting move, Wally. What were your takeaways on this?
I loved it. I feel like everybody in the football world kind of was connecting the dots to this as soon as the Kenny Pickett move happened, and we'll get to that a little bit later because that one really kind of confused me,
Yeah.
at least on Philadelphia's end. But the Steelers gave up nothing, and now they have a really high upside guy on a roughly $3 million deal, and they have a potential future Hall of Famer desperate to prove that he's not over the hill yet. And David had written a few notes here for us in that talking about he was a little confused because you're kind of opening up drama and the questions of who's going to be your quarterback. And I've been saying it pretty much to like the clouds, and I feel like no one's been able to hear me because I'm just mumbling to myself. But Russell Wilson, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler week 1 of the NFL season. He's only making $1.2 million. There's no risk whatsoever. If Russell Wilson loses this job to Justin Fields, I actually would go as far to say I think it's likely that he's not a Steeler on opening day and that you're going to see a rookie following Justin Fields as the backup. But we'll see if that happens. I just keep your eyes on that. I don't think it's like dead set in stone he's there.
Well, to play devil's advocate too, just there's reports coming out after this Justin Fields trade that Mike Tomlin had talked to Russ, kind of giving him the heads up. But also at the same time, reports coming out that Pittsburgh expected to be looking at a multi-year deal with Russell after this season. So every smoke and mirror is up right now. If it's, oh, we're going to sign you the veteran minimum, we're going to trade Justin Fields. Well, don't worry, you're going to be the starter. Don't you worry about that. We're also going to get you a multi-year deal at the end of here. No, to your point, he is more likely not to be a Steeler week 1 than I think signing a multi-year deal at the end of the year. Because at what point with that QB carousel that they have already had, they still haven't fixed the biggest problem on that team, the offensive line. Doesn't matter if you have Mason Rudolph, if you have Justin Fields, if you got Russell Wilson. If you can't block, you can't block, and that's going to ruin a lot of offenses. So they need to focus on a couple other things before looking for a resolution of what we're going to do for Russell Wilson at the end of this season.
NFL teams are very good at saying one thing and doing another. We saw the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 weeks ago. We're talking about 2 weeks. We're telling the world we're actually really comfortable with Kenny Pickett as our starter. We like this room we have here. We're okay going into the next year. We're so used to teams lying to the media that it makes it hard for me, to your point. It's like, why would a team and Omar Khan invest in a multi-year deal with a guy like Russell Wilson when you don't know if he still has good football in him? He had Sean Payton. You and I don't like Sean Payton as much as the world does, but we'll admit that he's a hell of a quarterbacks coach. And if that's the best that we got out of Russell Wilson in Denver, then why is it going to be better when he has no offensive line and he's got wide receivers that don't really get a lot of separation? Like, we love George Pickens, or at least I do. He's not getting open. He's making a lot of incredible catches. So I think this feels like a Justin Fields offense or someone that would be better in this system than Russell Wilson. So that's at least where my head's at.
Yeah, what's their wide receiver room? Because I quote tweeted it the other day. It's headlined by George Pickens, and then it's like Calvin Austin.
Yeah, so
they just
at
signed Van Jefferson.
Yeah, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, and then you're going to have, like, there's guys like Denzel Mims, Des Fitzpatrick that are signed right now that won't be on the team because they're going to be drafting probably 2 or 3 wide receivers in the draft.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
yeah, it's not exactly sexy.
For the Justin Fields side of things, at least he has an opportunity to play for arguably the most consistent franchise in the NFL. And you're gonna go behind a coach that you can get behind. I don't know if you could say the same between Nagy, between Eberflus, what he's had there. So he's going to a winning culture, and I like it a lot. But like I said at the beginning, if you don't have an offensive line, we've seen Justin Fields struggle his entire career without an offensive line. Don't it? don't try to define the word insanity just because he flipped over to Pittsburgh and you're expecting something different here. But the 2021 quarterback draft list, the top 5 here, we got Trevor Lawrence leading the pack of the number 1 overall pick there in Jacksonville. He doesn't have a 5th-year option picked up. Just a little side note. Zach Wilson benched, seeking a trade. The other 3, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, and Justin Fields, have all been traded. The latter of the 2 for 6th-round draft picks just 2 off seasons later. Sorry, 3 off seasons later.
That class and the one immediately following it, very similar, when the buildup could not have been more different. Because that Kenny Pickett draft class was like very widely known it was not going to be a very good one, at least not very strong. And a year before was being billed as like one of the best quarterback drafts in a decade. And they were both looking a little rough at this stage. I will say that it sounds like Justin Fields requested to go to Pittsburgh, and Ryan Poles did good by him to make that happen. And if that's the case, you got to think that players, they're not naive to that. It's going to make Ryan Poles and the Bears a little bit more of an attractive destination if you feel like you're a player-first organization. But I was a little confused on the timing of this trade for the Bears. I don't know if you feel that way, but either do it before free agency or do it in the short lead up to the draft. This is very peculiar, and I feel like they just like sewered the trade value.
From an outsider's perspective, off knowing nothing, the way that I look at it, or the way that it happened, is all right, we're going to go with free agency. It's a little bit of this rumor going around, but then you're seeing these quarterbacks being traded for a 4th round, a 6th round pick, whatever it may be. And the Bears lost the game of chicken, because if you come out of there and everyone's starting to clamor, everyone in that organization, that little fraternities of GMs and owners, they all know that they're going to be picking Caleb Williams. It isn't anything special. It's not a secret. So the more time you waste on it, the more value you're also going to be losing in return for Justin Fields. And it seems like this was the best of both worlds. You're at least getting something, maybe something manageable. God knows, maybe they pair this up with another pick and flip it into something higher. So from that point of view, I think it's, if you wait too long at the draft, you're gonna get robbed. You at least got to walk with a little bit of something. I think this was enough of them to be like, you know what, this might be the best. This might be the best offer we're going to see for a while. And to your point, Ryan Poles kind of doing right by a guy he doesn't really necessarily need to do right by. That's not his quarterback he drafted. He kind of came in and inherited this quarterback. So for him to be able to kind of put that aside and just treat him like a human being is huge. So I think that they just got pressured line. So, you know what, I'm not even going to take the risk that his values dropped this much over 2 weeks. Let's just pull the trigger on it now before draft starts.
I kind of had the idea that it felt like limelight fatigue in a sense, where they had been hearing about this and it's been the most divisive. Adam Alfonso, your buddy, was tweeting about it, and it was really great because it really unlocked a memory in my head. But when I was at ESPN Cleveland this year, we would have meetings with like the other ESPN branches, and Chicago has a very good connection, both Midwest. The people know each other well, and it truly was the most divisive Chicago sports talking point that I can remember in decades. People are so entrenched on their sides, pro or anti Justin Fields, that I felt like this was almost Ryan Poles just saying, we need this behind us. This isn't healthy for anybody. Let's just finally move on and we can all go our separate ways and hopefully all be better for it.
Well, let's keep it in Chicago as well, because they did this trade, but before they traded Justin Fields away, they also acquired Keenan Allen from the Los Angeles Chargers in exchange for a 4th round pick, 110 overall. Now, you got to remember, this is something we talked about where the Los Angeles Chargers had 4 of the top 12 salary cap casualties essentially are due to these 4 players, Keenan Allen being one of them. So he's essentially going over to Chicago on a 1-year, $32 million deal for a 4th round pick. But all of a sudden, you pair him up with DJ Moore. They had DeAndre Swift here. Cole Kmet's been quietly having a solid couple years in Chicago. They're starting to build up for the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams.
Adored this move for Ryan Poles. You move off a day 3 pick for one of the most consistently good wide receivers in football. They have the cap room too. So even if something you did see a decline in Keenan Allen's play this year. The injuries finally catch up to him. It was worth the risk. And they had the room cap wise, and you might as well spend that money. So I love it from that side of it. I guess before we get to the Chargers, I want to hear your Bears thoughts first.
I mean, they're just putting it together. We saw them kind of getting the train moving a little bit in the offseason with the defensive side of the ball that they were focusing on. But now they are building up that offensive roster because we saw DJ Moore had his career best year in Chicago here last year with not really anyone else supporting him outside of a Cole Kmet, right? Darnell Mooney was nothing. Like that was the guy a couple years ago. He just had just vanished. So now you're adding him, Keenan Allen, to a DJ Moore offense. It's a great move. It pains me and I hate it so much, but it's a great move for the team.
Let's move to the Chargers side of this because I've got a bad feeling. Dude, I got a real bad feeling that I'm going to get burned by laughing at Jim Harbaugh. But every time I see like a move like this on an NFL roster where he's the de facto GM, I get extensively worried that my fat ass is about to get drafted into Vietnam because that's what it feels like. We're in the mid 60s right now and we are refusing. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. A guy that is just begging to emerge as a superstar, like a true superstar. And what are we doing? We're going to go, I've been saying it, but wide receivers in 3-point stances. Like this is going to be, let's run the ball 35, 40 times a game and have him throw it 15 to 20. It's probably a little low, but you get my point. It just feels like a really weird philosophy when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert.
Is Justin Herbert about to get traded so they can draft up and get JJ McCarthy?
They'll trade him and then trade up. Everybody will think it's JJ, and then they'll draft the running back, Blake Corum.
Blake Corum?
Yeah, and then you got Michigan guys everywhere. They'll trade back up for JJ then.
Blake Corum is definitely going to be a Los Angeles Charger when it comes April. I can almost but guarantee that right now. It feels like I feel horrible for the Chargers. First of all, they shot him in the foot. Tom Telesco got the hell out of there and went to Vegas as quick as he possibly can, knowing what this offseason was going to entail. It's bad. It's bad overall. The contracts were bad. They were never good. You had two wide receivers getting 30 plus million this year on top of two edge rushers getting 30 plus mil as well. One in Khalil Mack that hasn't played of course this year he did pretty well. You take the six sack game out of there, he's just like a regular pedestrian Khalil Mack since he's been traded out of Chicago. And then Joey Bosa, who you couldn't pay to stay on the field because you're literally paying him to stay on the field and he can't. It was a horrible mess up front at the GM contractually, and now no one's reaping the benefits. And poor Justin Herbert. This guy's right on the precipice of being a superstar, like you said. Austin Eckler's declined, but you lose Eckler, you lose Keenan Allen, Jared Everett's even gone, Mike Williams is gone, and now we're going to be relying on Quentin Johnston, a guy that was getting dogged as the worst wide receiver pick last year after every other wide receiver in that class felt like they were balling and at least hitting 800 yards. It is some dark times in LA.
Okay. Well, because I'm just
Make it make sense.
Well, I'm trying to think here. Like, what if we're overreacting? And what if they are just trying to shed cap and they are going to draft someone maybe in the second or third round? Because you brought up Quentin Johnston's not it. And what he did last year was one of the worst rookie wide receiver first round guys I can remember. It was like John Ross, Darius Hayward-Bay level of what the hell is going on out there. And that's tough when you're like the first guy off the board outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba. That is really difficult. One of the best ever this week hung up his cleats for good, Steven. Aaron Donald. You have all of his stats and accolades here, so I'll throw it over to you so we can hear some of those absurd numbers.
It is ridiculous because this is somebody, a human being. I don't even like to use the word human being because he's not. This dude is not human. Ever since I saw his knife training videos where he's like learning how to like dip and swim and cut and block, then I found out they're fake, which kind of ruined it for me. But not really, because I was big in my Michael Myers stage. You have the knives going around there. But 10-year NFL career in Aaron Donald, that's 10 Pro Bowls. That is eight All Pros, all first. Not a single second team All Pro, all first in 80% of this dude's career. 111 sacks, which would put him at 26th all time. That's the most during his from 2014 currently. That is the most in that span, but it's also the second most sacks by a defensive tackle in NFL history, which is mind-boggling because we're a little bit too old. Maybe I know him. I barely know him, and it's only because he's within the division of the NFC North. And John Randall with 137 and a half. He also played 4 more years than Aaron Donald did. So based off simple math, trajectories, and average, Aaron Donald was going to blow this out of the water. Because what? He's basically have 11 sacks each year. He add 44 more on to whatever he ended up with. He was going to blow that out of the water. He was something else. He single-handedly made people forget about the injury-ridden J.J. Watt. Like, when's J.J. going to be the same? Holy shit, you see this Aaron Donald guy for that really shitty St. Louis Rams team?
The interior pass rushers that we've kind of become accustomed to in the last 10 years, it's in large part because of him. And Aaron Donald, when I was trying to sit here and think about it, because it's very easy to be like one of the best ever. People do it all the time, and it's like you start digging into it, you're like, all right, maybe we're being a liberal with that word. Aaron Donald is truly one of the best football players in the history of the NFL, and many people thought that he was going to be a bust, that he was too small and he wasn't going to work in the NFL. And here we are 10 years later, and you think of guys like Mean Joe Green, you think of Bob Lilly, you think of Warren Sapp, like the best ever. He is in that conversation, if not eclipsing it. First ballot guy without even a question. He's got it's like Reggie White. You're Reggie White, where he's taking the world's greatest athletes and he is bullying these guys, physically dominating these people on a regular basis. And then what are the other plays you see in his highlights where he's getting quadruple teamed
and beating them? And there's sometimes he's beating them.
Yeah, but even when you're not, there was the one that was going viral the other day where it was 4 legitimate guys blocking him, and you're like, all right, let's do a quick math check. It is now 10-on-7 for the defense. So that's so different when you have guys like that. And I earmuffs for Bengals fans, but how many people at his level too have a signature moment like what he did in the Super Bowl where he won that game, where Jamar Chase is going to get open on that 9 route. And if Joe Burrow had another second and a half, we might be talking about a Bengals team winning the Super Bowl. Instead, Aaron Donald takes it into his own hands. And that's like a defining moment in not only for him, but for his organization. And I mean, it's movie shit. We'll miss him on Sundays. David wrote it too, that, I mean, the NFL is just going to deeply miss this guy. It's one of those, you're sad it's over, but you're so happy it happened.
And the best part about him and his resume, it's Wally proof from the Hall of Fame. He hits every single thing that you want. It's not Hall of Good. He's got 10 years, 10 Pro Bowls, 8 All Pros. Those people out there that want to look at sacks as the number, most amount of sacks during the span while he was in the NFL career, and second most by defensive tackle of all time. And at the same time, it's ridiculous. It is absurd, and I don't think people realize how rare it is. I think right now we have a lot of specimens in the league that kind of are making our threshold a little bit high, but these types of players, the Aaron Donalds, the J.J. Watts, they don't come around. Now, granted, we got the Myles Garretts and the T.J. Watts right now, and a couple, your sexy Dexies, right? Your, dare I say, Max Crosby's and Christian Wilkins of the world, where it feels like they're at every single corner. But, I mean, these are some of the forefathers.
Deion Sanders. Rushmore. Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. Deion Sanders a few years ago started talking about the idea of having like a more exclusive Hall of Fame, like a Hall of Fame of the Hall of Fame, which is a stupid idea. I'm not advocating for that.
I love it.
Well, see, that would be where I actually get my way, where all the only people in that are the people that I want in the Hall of Fame.
The Wally of Fame.
The Wally of Fame. Aaron Donald would be in the Wally of Fame. Like, he is a Hall of Fame of Hall of Famers. And it really, like I shouldn't have been shocked because he's been kind of flirting with the idea of retiring for 3 years, but he's still so good that I just was like, he
Yeah.
can't quit now. Like he's got to keep coming back, and
You have so much more to give to me and us.
exactly. But he's getting out at a great time. He made a ton of money. He won a Super Bowl, and I mean, he's kind of universally respected. Where in the football world, that's kind of hard to do. There's always haters trying to poke holes in your game.
More NFC North trade news. Are the Vikings stocking up picks to move up for a franchise quarterback? Because the Vikings get the Texans' number 23 overall pick and a seventh rounder in exchange for pick number 42, a sixth rounder, and next year's second round pick in Minnesota here.
These are the kind of moves that you don't make unless you've been making calls to gauge the market to trade up. And I do think that is what's happening. I think that sometime in the middle of April, a week or two before the draft, we're going to have to do an emergency podcast to talk about how the Vikings went into the number 3 slot and moved New England out to get their quarterback. I feel like it's inevitable. I feel it in my bones, feel it in my plums.
At this point I'm just so curious about who he's looking at, because I know Chicago's gotten a lot of love, but it's not a bad destination of where Minnesota is with the skill players that they have, headlined by Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison had an awesome year, TJ Hawkinson. Then you had the addition of Aaron Jones in the backfield, and they got a pretty decent offensive line there led by Christian Darrisaw. So I like that unit. Still question marks on the defensive side, but this is almost just based off. I don't want to go as far as saying Kevin O'Connell's like a quarterback whisperer, but he makes quarterbacks competent enough to keep you competitive. We saw him do it last year with Nick Mullins. We saw him there with the Pasternaut for a while there in the stretch, keep it competitive up until the last couple of years. So maybe they are going for that young. But now I'm like, who? How do you get somebody to move out of that pick that's also in a worse position than you are and in more need of a quarterback? I just don't see it, but we have so much time to see a lot of things unravel right now.
If you made me pick one right now, I think I'd still pick Drake May as a fit there, even though it seems like his stock is by the day falling. It just feels like a very Minnesota y move, a very KOC, that Shanahan tree offense. And it does. And the other guy you can see is JJ. McCarthy just feels like he is athletic enough. He is someone that can run kind of that offense there. I like Jaden Daniels. I understand he's undersized. I understand there's a lot of red flags about his game. But if you're trading up for the top 3 to get a quarterback, you're taking a home run swing. And if I'm taking a home run swing, I'm going for the guy that I think has the highest ceiling, and that is Jaden Daniels of those 3.
A couple of the big remaining free agents that now find a home. We got old Cowboys offensive tackle Tyron Smith signing a 1-year, $20 million deal going to the New York Jets, while the Chiefs pick up Marquise Hollywood Brown on just a 1-year deal that's able to get him up to $11 million. I am I am so interested about Marquise Brown not finding a long-term contract to stay in the desert, but now he's going up to Kansas City. I want to lead with that one. Were you surprised to see him walk out of Arizona, then take so long to get signed as well?
No, because I don't see the sex appeal that I feel like many people see with Hollywood. He's 26 still, so he is young, but in his
I think
5
that's
years,
sexy.
it is pretty sexy. I wish I was 26. I'll say that for sure. But in 5 years, he's only had one season where he amassed 1,000 yards, and he barely got there. I think 1,008 yards, if I remember right. He's kind of have like Jarvis Landry disease too, where his averaging like 11, 12 yards a catch, and it's just not enough for a guy that's as skilled and athletic as he is. You would expect that number to be higher, that he should be able to make more explosive plays. The Chiefs are going to be exceptional again. I just don't think it's going to be in large part because they brought in Hollywood Brown.
No, but it's nice to have a recognizable name in there. Remember,
That's
they
true.
released Marquez Valdez Scantling. We know the Kadarius Toney drama they've had all of this past year. They definitely have a type, because I feel like he's pretty close to Rashid Rice and what he's able to do too. Obviously, Rice is a little bit bigger and he can probably extend the outside more. and Brown's more of a slot guy. But I don't know. Maybe this is what helps him unlock it. Maybe he can. Maybe he's a guy who's going to get open a lot in the middle because there's still a lot of eyes on Travis Kelce, obviously going up the middle. Rice getting a lot of eyes on him too. So I don't know. Maybe this is a move that helps Brown, but mostly will potentially help Pacheco as well get the ball a little more.
If it isn't Kansas City, then it's failed experiment time. We got to stop doing the Marquise, Hollywood Brown going somewhere every offseason. Someone's like, we're going to unlock him. This team's going to do it. If the Chiefs don't unlock him, it's an empty vault. There's nothing in there.
Yeah, the key broke off in the lock. Now, what about Tyron Smith? Now, this is a guy who made a career out in Dallas. He's turning 32 here in April, and then he's going up to New York now to play with Aaron Rodgers on that left side of the line.
He's 33, isn't he?
Oh, 30. Sorry. Yeah, he's turning 33 in April, or he's soon, next month.
Gotcha.
I remember looking at him and be like, damn, this man's old.
Yeah, because they officially made a move for two 33-year-old tackles then this offseason in Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith. And that's exciting that you have a lot of experience, but it also worries you if these guys can hold up. I mean, 3 of the 5 presumptive offensive lineman starters will be new faces on this team. So we'll see if they can hold up. It's definitely feels like one last big swing because they know that regardless of what Aaron Rodgers says, next year feels like it's probably it. But I'm still drafting offensive line if I'm Joe Douglas.
Oh yeah, and to your point, and I'll double down and I'll back you up on this. 33-year-old tackles, are their durability? Are they able to last here? This is Tyron Smith's last few years here. He's only played in 36 of a possible 68 regular season games over the last 4 years. We had a neck injuries and ending in neck surgery ending his season in 2020, multiple ankle injuries in 2021, a torn hamstring in 2022, and then he missed a few games here last year. So now we're going to get a 33. Oh, I even had it on here. Good call, Wally. Just turned 33, headed up to the dreaded MetLife turf that everyone hates to talk about. There's a reason David Bakhtiari is not the 33-year-old signing with the New York Jets, and it's Tyron Smith, because that is an even bigger question mark if they can stay on the field. This could just be another. No wonder Aaron Rodgers is looking into presidential candidates or VP candidacy.
Yeah, that's a tough loss for him. He can't win championships even there right now, where he's not going to be dubbed the VP. So regrettably, he will have to play football this year. But it does feel like Tyron Smith, like David Bakhtiari, when they're healthy, we're talking about some of the best linemen in the league. But if he's going to be playing there 6 games a year, we just saw Aaron Rodgers suffer an Achilles injury because nobody can block for him in New York. I'm just really concerned that unless they do address this more in the draft, that this is going to backfire in some capacity.
Before we get into the 911 rapid fire for the week, we want to remind you that this week's episode is brought to you by Abby Turner Creative, your one-stop shop marketing agency specializing in branding, high-end photography, fashion, and more, especially for Wally and I's age, what feels like there's a birthday, perhaps, David? College graduation, baby pictures, engagements, weddings, you name it, they're happening every weekend. Abby Turner Creative is the only way to go. Check her out for yourself at abbyturnerphoto.com. That's Abby, A-B-B-E-Y, or at her Instagram at Sawdad and Sapphire. Again, abbyturnerphoto.com. We were talking about quarterbacks last week, but now, or not so backup quarterbacks last week, but now we're locking it in as the backup quarterbacks here, as we have Jimmy G signing a 1-year deal with the Rams. And like we said before, the Eagles trading for Kenny Pickett. Oh, Drew Lock signing a 1-year, $5 million deal with the New York Giants as well. Which one of these stuck out to you, Walter?
I guess probably the Jimmy G one, because the PED sussy really banged Jimmy G.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so he lost a lot of guaranteed money because of that. So he'll miss 2 games, but after that, this feels like a really good and savvy backup hire right here, because we've seen Jimmy G take teams in San Francisco very far, won to a Super Bowl. And with Sean McVay, doesn't that kind of feel like the perfect backup in that system?
I feel like he just brought him in because McVay has such a problem beating Shanahan. He's like, all right, I got to find any way possible to be able to consistently beat this dude.
How about the Eagles trading for Pickett? Why not
Doesn't make
trade for
sense.
Fields? Like, go for someone that makes kind of fits that system and plays a little bit like your starting quarterback, right?
Well, so the Eagles traded pick 98 and 2 7th rounds for Kenny Pickett and a 4th round pick, the 120th overall. You could have, Howie, this is right up your alley, my boy. 6th round pick. You would have Justin Fields. God knows that's also bad too. You can't win anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania because if Jalen Hurts has anywhere of the season he does, they're going to start clamoring for Justin Fields in Philly, and they're going to be doing the same damn thing there in Pittsburgh.
Honestly, that's probably the reason why. That's a good point. Because within like a month, I would be sitting here. Be pretty crazy if we got Justin Fields in there, wouldn't it? I for sure would. So that's a good point. Drew Lock, though, people thought he was going to possibly compete for the starting job in New York. What is like? I don't know what that thing is that he does, but oh yeah, got the backpack strapped in. I don't know.
I think it's like putting the blazer on. It's like, oh, business, baby. No, I like it, and that's what John Schneider, the GM of the Seahawks. That's what he kind of relayed to. He kind of seemed reluctant to trade this dude in the first off, but then he kind of got talked into it once he was finding out that Drew Lock is going to be competing for a starting job. So it's going to be worth this time because right after they traded away Drew Lock, that's when they got Sam Howell here. So they really like that backup quarterback spot. But nonetheless, maybe Drew Lock gets another start because it kind of seems that the Giants really aren't ready to play Daniel Jones, especially for that cap hit that he has. And I want to say it's because he has an injury guarantee that they're looking to avoid.
I would like to see the old backpack, the slash suit, whatever that thing is. I
Drew
don't
Lock,
the Drew
Drew
Lock,
Lock about to
whatever
be
it
the
is.
most electric quarterback at MetLife next year.
He better be. Well, I mean, we'll figure out with Aaron Rodgers there too. But
Yeah. We'll see if they get Daniel Jones, and I see what you're saying.
the Cowboys finally did something, even if that isn't adding, because they cut linebacker Leighton Vander Esch and wide receiver Michael Gallup. Steven, it looks like you and I have similar thoughts on Leighton Vander Esch, so please go ahead and take it away.
Well, to go up with Gallup, this is a guy just 2 years ago that signed a 5-year, $57.5 million extension. They signed this dude post an ACL injury, like a couple months after. So he hasn't really been able to do anything since then. So obviously he gone. They're going to save some money. But Leighton Vander Esch, this is a guy that you really thought was going to just be that next middle linebacker because of an awesome rookie year. But he just kept racking up the injuries. Unfortunately, the injuries kept racking up to his neck. This cut is most likely, and it keeps reporting out, that this is going to lead to an early retirement, unfortunately, for Leighton Vander Esch. If anything, if anyone's going to talk him out, I throw my money on Dan Quinn, maybe getting him over to Washington as a last hoorah. But I don't think anyone that has a conscience is going to want to play. Oh, in that case, just send them up to Buffalo because they're sick fucks. They're just trying anyone out there.
You're right, though. I do think this is probably the end of what was a once really promising career and just an old school physical football player that was a joy to watch when he was healthy. And I mean, you saw the problems early at Boise. He started wearing that neck roll, I want to say his sophomore year because of all these injuries to the neck. But I remember my buddy Tyler and we went to the draft in Dallas. That was the Baker year, so for like 2018, somewhere around then.
Okay.
And there was a pre-draft event that DeMarcus Ware, Jason Witten, and Mike Golick were there. It was really cool. And I remember Jason Witten kind of tipping the cap that the Cowboys were very much in on Leighton Vander Esch that night, and how excited it sounded like the organization was to have a physical player that was in love with football at that position again. And I'll never forget being that fired up. I'm like, you kind of get to feel it and hear it kind of inside an organization, how much they love these guys. And I'll be bummed out because between him and Jalen Smith, just feels like we have a massive what if at off ball linebacker in Dallas.
Well, don't forget about the biggest what if because the guy that he was following, Sean Lee, was another one of those guys that he was so good when he was able to stay on the field. I want to say that he actually had some neck injuries too, but I could be kind of pulling that out of my ass. But there's also a missed opportunity there where we were supposed to have LVE and Sean Lee both in that lineup. In that, I think they're running a 3-4 at the time just because they could. So they were able to have both those guys on the field. We kind of got robbed of that as well, but it's unfortunate. But I'm happy, he got to live his childhood dream out.
Yes.
I'm sure kind of being in that area, Dallas was a really huge product. If he's a Boise dude, like there's not really that much around. Like Cowboys are being shown all the time. I'm sure that was a lifelong dream of his. So kudos to that. Long NFL career, got his check, long enough to be able to get the Medicare and everything that follows it here of being an NFL player.
And no state income tax in Dallas. So call that another win.
Yeah, well, Dallas is a city, dude. So
true. That would be tough. Also in Texas, though, where there's no state income tax. So
big guy.
That's a big win there too.
With that'll bring us to an end of another episode of Loss of Down. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Loss of Down, and retweet us on Twitter/X _loss. Remember, this episode is brought to you by the Bruiser Nation Podcast Network, a division of Snapmere Productions, as well as Abby Turner Creative, AbbyTurnerPhoto.com, ABBEY, or on our Instagram at Sawdad and Sapphire. Wally, any parting news for the fans?
Only thing I guess I'll leave with is last week at the end of, I can't remember if it was Monday or Thursday's episode. You guys know I'm a tornado nerd. We had to hit a little close to home in Ohio's backyard, and we had a couple of crazy storms, and it was weird to see everybody in our part of the world pay attention to like something that's like a passion for a little bit. And I was all excited until I realized that really big Ohio storm, the tornado, hit in Wapakoneta, and that's where my cousin lives. And I didn't realize at the moment, so I was all jazzed up, like, this is crazy, what a night. It missed them by like a mile. And I was panicked for like an hour and a half after, like, I can't believe I'm the dumbass that's like excited for this stuff. You know what I mean? But that was a wild time. I'm sure you guys were feeling it a little bit there in central Ohio.
So the thing with me is Kylie gets so scared when it's thunderstorms, when it's tornadoes. And the fact is, like, I grew up an hour off the coast. So I'm used to hurricanes, or the hurricanes that you see in Florida that end up going up to Georgia, South Carolina. Like, and then it goes in North Carolina. It always cuts right back to the coast and always went through my hometown. So I'm so used to the high winds, it raining sideways, just looking ugly outside. It just is not something that Kylie is used to. She's scared more than a dog. And Paula was zonked that entire time. She was pissed that we had to take her down because at one point, when you see a lot of flashes of lightning like consistently within a 5-second span, I'm like, all right, I've seen enough scary movies where that shit is way too sketchy. It should not be lighting up like that. That's how you know, like the tornadoes, like lightning bolts going on in them. I'm like, nah, nope, I don't like that. So we went downstairs for a little bit, but like once it passes, like you're fine.
See, our dog Thunder is very unfortunate with the name connection, terrified of the storms, did not like it at all. And we didn't even get hit hard. So I'm waiting for the day that we have that nasty weather where that dog, she was a mess. And it was literally a thunderstorm for us. It was nothing more than an average thunderstorm.
What's fucked is we're like watching the news because first of all, like the timing of the storm was horrible. There was no local news on, so like I'm flipping around. We're watching like national news. Luckily, this chick is bouncing between Arkansas that was getting hit and Ohio, like a couple of spots. So it sounds like maybe you were listening to the same broadcast. I can see why you'd be watching that broadcast. So it was, dude, it was just so eerie. But you never heard the sirens go off. That's usually a dead giveaway. But I need a basement so bad. It's just like, oh, tornado, sweet. Already got the man cave set up, baby. We got Xbox going. We got drinks. We got food. What you want? What you need? I got you.
Like I'm already in the basement already. You guys just come on down, kind of a situation.
Exactly. It's like, oh, what the hell's going on? Oh, some storm. I didn't know because I'm so protected down here.
I love you guys. That's all I got. Tornadoes were fun. How about you, Steven? Anything crazy going on in your world this week?
No, but I I've added ribs to my repertoire of things that
Oh,
I cook. So I'm a wing maniac. I got the wings. I'm over here talking about the best healthy chicken Sammy that I can make. Add ribs. Was at Kroger this past weekend, found a 7-pound rack of ribs discounted from $20 to $15. Everything else in that section was half the size for $3 more. I was like, I don't care. I'll figure something out. So we've just been munching on them. Phenomenal. I have an oven, so I don't have anything special, so I had to do it that way. But let me tell you, people, when I get a smoker, watch out. Just watch out.
dude, your wedding's coming up here in about a month. I mean, someone's got to be throwing a smoker at you. Come on, or at least give me the money for the smoker.
Hey, Fonz. I know you. People, if you haven't told people, and this is how they're finding out, my boy's moving to Shanghai here during the summer. I know that big green egg has got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere.
Fonz is going to Shanghai, you said?
Yeah, and I'm taking his dog. That's my dog now.
Wow, is it like a permanent move? Is it a short-term move? How is that?
A couple of years. You can find out when you see him here in a couple of weeks.
Okay, yeah, I will. I mean, talk about a big move. Yeah, I'm excited about that. You get your smoker, though, by the way. Insert Drew Lock. Put that jacket on. That's when you got real. You're going to have me just moving in, living in that basement we're going to dig at the bottom of your home there.
Let's do it. We own the house. I'm sure we just got to worry about the HOA. Other than that, like, we're fine.
Forget the HOA. That's what I have to say.
HOA might be the biggest scam ever.
It's a joke.
Right next to taxes and being forced to get your college degree.
All those things, joke. Love you guys. Enjoy March Madness.